Hello, everybody. This is Paul Plana. We have our brand new coaching session right now. Our live session is 100% live. We have Andy here, and we're going to be discussing how he can grow his business, what he's learned over the years, so that he can impart upon you just like you. He's a customer just like you. He's going to talk a little bit about himself. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk him through a similar coaching session to if Andy paid me $5,000 and said, Paul, look, what are some things that we can bounce around and mastermind to grow my business and also basically to go from a point, let's say you're here, to the next level, right? So we're going to talk about that. So it's going to be a really awesome session, not just for Andy, but for you as well, because you might be in the same level as Andy, same experience level, and same stage as he is. So you can get a lot of benefit from that. So before I get underway, though, Andy, tell us a little bit about yourself and, how long you've been doing this stuff. What do you do in general? And what are you looking for from this call, basically?
Well, thank you very much for having me, first of all, Paul and Yash. This is a great pleasure to meet you both. And so basically, I'm a mortgage broker / realtor. I live in Toronto, just north of Toronto. Canada, for those people that aren't familiar with Toronto. I've been, in the online marketing thing for, better part of 5 years now. I guess I've been trying to figure out how to do what you do. What I'm doing is I'm trying to find a way to build my list, because obviously king of the list is, where you want to be, especially as a mortgage broker and realtor. And because things are moving so fast in the online world, I've been trying different products, and, I've been part of your Chatter Pal, and just got into the Talking Faces because of the training that you're going to provide for kind of combining Chatter Pal with Talking Faces. I think that's going to be really, really powerful, actually. I'd like to, I'm going to learn how to get that on my website and be able to market with it. I think it's
Awesome.
fantastic thing. And just the way everything is going now, it's the only way to go, really. I mean, everybody else is going to be left behind. And I've been a fan of yours, Paul, for years. I've been watching your stuff and all your apps that you come out with. And I just think that it's just blows my mind, really. I mean, I'm a bit old school, I'm pushing 60, so I can't keep up with you young fellas, but man, you do some cool stuff.
Awesome. So Andy, so the goal in this call then is for us to help you grow your real estate mortgage broker business, where you want to get a lot of clients in, right? And you want to do it through the online space. And also you want to do it in a more automated fashion, if you will, such that you're not the one, doing the cold calling and, all that stuff to acquire clients and onboard them in, right? So basically we'll go through this, okay? We'll go through this in a step-by-step fashion so that we can actually understand things better and how I would go about it, right? And I'm pretty sure you know that I'm also in the real estate space a little bit more on the investing side of things and that sort of thing. So I think I can impart a little bit of stuff there as well. And, it's just not your business, right? If somebody's a chiropractor business owner, even as somebody, a consultant who's doing consulting work, right, would benefit with this kind of flow. So what I generally like to do in this kind of a scenario, Andy, is I generally like to draw things out for people, map out like a strategy, right? Like we want to have a strategy, because if we don't have a strategy or a plan, then you're kind of like aiming at nothing, right? And we don't know what we're aiming for, then it kind of like, it kind of defeats the purpose. And you mentioned you purchased some products from me and stuff. I appreciate that. But bigger than the products itself, and you mentioned this as well, right? The training and the ability to get results with what you have, and the focus is what matters, right? So that's why I try to do these calls, so that, it's not just about like, oh, I'm so great, or, Andy is so experienced or not. It's more like we're masterminding together, right? You will learn some things off of this call. I'll learn some things. And basically you'll get some insights maybe you didn't think about before. And also some of the audiences watching this later on will also get the same process. All right. So first things first, let's write this down step by step so that you and I, Andy, are on the same page. Okay. And I'll give you these slides later on as well, the drawings that I'm doing here and all that stuff. Why I like to do this is because I want to have you focus on certain points here, right? So basically, let's talk about step by step here. So let's say we have our real estate business here, right? So this is your real estate business. right? And you're real estate agent, right? So realtor, right? Real estate. Okay. So this is our business. Now under it, we have different what we like, in the business world, they call it vertical integration. But at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is you want to sell, right? Homes, right? It could be apartments, condos, but whatever, for basic purposes. Now, to be able to sell homes, many people will come to you. The leads that are coming in who want to buy, they'll say, look, I don't know if I can qualify for that particular home, right? Like, I don't know. So then you also, obviously, you're a smart guy. You went in and you went into the mortgage business, right? So you can go and you can provide that loan to people. So now both ways, if a lead comes in for selling the home and also providing that mortgage assistance for the work done, you get a commission. So now your work then pretty much is very much relying upon getting qualified leads, right? The more qualified leads you get, the more you're going to make. It's just at the end of the day, there's nothing much more than that. Now, what I want to really discuss today, and I think this is something that I've learned as well, Andy, right, is in the real estate space, right, there is this misconception people have, and even I had it, right, for a while, where we think that it is all about, for example, where, I'm just going to have to get a client and then I'm therefore going to get a sale. But what I realized is qualification of the buyer is the hardest part, because how do you know a person can afford to buy a house? Just because they showed interest or signed up for a lead doesn't mean that they're interested, right? And so what I've realized is we got to hone in on specialization, Andy, okay? This is super, super important. And so specialization would be whatever, I can't spell today, but all right, you got to specialize, right? All right, specialize. So basically the idea is I'll give you a story, right, Andy? So about in 2015, I actually wanted to do my first investment in real estate. So what happened was I remember I went in, this was an industrial property, right? So imagine this was cold storage, and imagine this was like, say, for example, it was a building where that cold storage, what they do is they store groceries and all that stuff, and then they ship it to, say, your local grocery chains, right? So this was the thing. And the particular business that was in there, they just came about 2 years ago or so as tenancies, right? So this was listed. I'll give you the actual price. You'll be interested to know. But anyway, this was listed for somewhere around $4 million, okay? And at that time, I had the money to buy it cash if I wanted to. And so I thought, why would you buy real estate in cash? You would leverage, right? So I went around in banks around Canada, because you're in Canada, so you understand. So I went around different banks and I'm like, how would the financing of this project work, right? So it's a $4 million project. It's making a pretty good rate of return. It has a pretty stable tenant. And lo and behold, the banks at that time basically said something along the lines of, we are not interested in, we don't have an appetite, that they say, to have interest in lending you for this industrial property at this time, right? We would be interested in lending if you are in the retail sector. Say, let's say you have, for example, a clothing store or whatever as a tenant, we'll lend you for that. Or we are going to, if it is, for example, multifamily or like an apartment building, we're going to lend you. But industrial, we're not sure. Now, the same thing. So at that point, just to give you a perspective on mistakes that people make, right? I figured, hey, if the banks are not interested, I'm not going to get a bunch of buyers for this thing when I'm trying to offload this in the future. So I'll back out of this deal, right? Then what happened, right? You got to look at the macro trends, right? So then we had Amazon, right? E-commerce, and we had all this e-commerce stuff, right? So they needed warehouse space, right? Then you got, with all this pandemic stuff and all that, a lot of warehousing space. Now you got Uber Eats and all this other stuff. So the trends moved around where, for example, the industrial properties right now are even more in demand by the banks. You probably know this, right? As a mortgage broker, are more in demand right now than even, you could argue, multifamily or even apartments or any other asset class. So what changed, right? Did the asset class change? Not really. Did the tenant who's living in there change? Not really. What changed is the macroeconomic trends, right? So e-commerce and all that stuff. So what I'm trying to explain to you is banks and all these other folks out there in the real estate space, even your industry or any industry out there, these folks are behind the A ball by about 4 to 5 years, okay? So what happens is these guys are so risk averse, the bosses, there's such a chain of command in terms of actually financing a deal or whatever, that by the time they actually understand what is happening, it's already, the peak has already gone in, right? Other people have made. So this particular exact property, had I bought it for $4 million then, it would be worth at least it'd be worth $15 million, okay? Right. And straight out of the gate, okay? So now what changed? Did I not have the money? I had the money, right? Did I know that it was a good deal? Yeah, it was a good deal at that time, right? So the problem here is that I did not know enough about this sector, right? I did not do my research properly. I did not know the experience in this, nor did I know that if in the worst case scenario, am I gonna lose money with this or be there? So if I had some level of experience or of some level of specialization, as we like to look at it, we would make something called a calculated risk, right? You will say, okay, I'm gonna take that calculated risk, right? I'm gonna, instead of putting, say $1 million down, so 25% down, I'll put 50% down, meaning $2 million of my own money. At that point, any bank will lend it. I'll put that money in, so that $2 million became 15 million, let's say, right? That's a pretty good deal. But that means we need to have that level of core competency and also that calculated risk. A lot of people, unfortunately, even in our space, right, even people who are watching this, folks, right, we've been taught this whole idea of a lottery system, right? Oh, just invest in the lottery and luckily by fluke, you're going to make money. And then what they've done research, everybody knows is already 85% of people who win lottery go broke within a year because they don't know what the heck to do with the money. So what the point I'm trying to make, guys, right, for Andy and everybody else, is everybody who's successful, right? Like last year, our business did 10 million. We're going to do more than that this year. We're into December now, so we're going to do much more than that right now. But everything that I make is based on a calculated risk. So meaning I know there's a risk, but I know that I'm doing it with the knowledge that I have in the specialization that I have, that I'm much better off making that decision than the average person, right? With the knowledge and stuff like that I have. So what I'm trying to get at, Andy, is what I've realized, and I'm going to give you an example in the real estate space because you're in that space, is I'm going to completely dedicate my life and my focus into affordable housing, okay? Now, that means my specialization tomorrow, if a government agency comes and they're like, oh, we need to find who the top 10 people in affordable housing are for policy framework or for trying to lend money, or banking guys, or there's a Canada Mortgage Housing Corporation, right? Similar to folks in the US, it's similar to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, right? So this basically means that I want to be in the top 10 people with the knowledge, right? I want to be the top 10 people in this. I don't care about industrial. I don't know enough about it. There are people who are going to make billions in that. I'm not saying it's bad or good, but if I know enough about this, then I'll become the go-to person. And then this whole idea, which I was telling you, Andy, coming back, which is a qualification of leads, when somebody's landing on my page, they know exactly what I specialize in and why I can solve their problem, right? So if we really brainstorm with each other, what we could say is, in the case of your business, what you could specialize, for example, would be, hey, I'll specialize in getting you a loan approved, even if, for example, you cannot do the 20% down, right? That could be your expertise. Somebody who's that kind of person where you can help them navigate through that. So that means when a person lands on the page, they're like, oh, I do not have 20% down payment. This person says that they can manage it. Okay, how? At least let me contact them. So now you become a consultant. You're not a salesperson anymore, is it? Right. You're a person who's a consultant. So what I'm trying to get at is a lot of people, and you as well, Andy, should be focusing on the specialization aspect. Even for ads, and even if you're trying to do leads, it becomes easier. What's happening these days is attention span of people is so low that if I'm too generic, I'm unable to get that person's attention. Like I cannot stop that person and say, look, pay attention, right, to me. So basically, for example, in the simplest terms, right? So if I'm in the real estate space and I'm advertising, I'll be like, look, I'm the affordable housing expert. If you're interested in renting an affordable housing place, financing an affordable housing space, if you're interested in, for example, any kind of policy framework or advice or consulting in making it a profitable thing, I'll become that expert, right, in that particular industry. So that means when somebody lands on a landing page that I have, or I'm running an ad, or I'm trying to, advertise myself in social media, whatever, becomes super easy because I don't have to focus my time into qualifying people, trying to see like, oh, if this person really has the money. And you know what happens in real estate where you got somebody who you spent on the leads, you generated 10 leads, they say, okay, I'm coming to the showing, and the last minute they don't show up, right? Why? Because they're not interested, because they feel you're in the sales business, not in the consulting business. They don't appreciate your time enough. And this happens, right? And the same way, for example, if that same person comes in and now they're like, oh, this is the only person who can get me this deal at 20%, less than 20%, either 17%, 16%. They have the solution to the problem I'm facing, right? So this is what we want to focus on, okay? I'll tell you some lead generation strategies. We'll talk about that, how you can maximize all that stuff in just a bit. We'll talk about some applications and all that. But I would go in this angle, okay? When you're talking landing pages, when you're talking about this, we want to focus on that one thing. And then you can become broader afterwards, because these days it's becoming crazy. Like if you say, I'm the number one salesman of homes, or I'm the number one saleswoman of homes, or whatever, and then you put up an ad, it's too generic. Everybody's seen that already. You know what I mean? So we want to do something special, something slightly different. So something different to other people, right? So does that help?
Oh, 100%. I agree with you 100%.
Okay.
And one of the worst things is even if you pre-qualify them and you take them and you show them the property, and then they use their uncle who's a realtor to buy it, and so you did all the work and got everything in place, and you don't get to close the sale anyway. So, and that kind of stuff happens all the time. Yeah, I don't mean to pick on people, but they don't treat realtors very well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're just a wealth of information for them, and when they're done with us, they kick us to the curb, and that's that, right?
Yeah. So this is what I also realized, right, in the real estate space and all that stuff is and another thing with the real estate space as well is there's that ups and downs or whatever. I mean, Canada had like lots of ups other than, say, Alberta and some other provinces, but Saskatchewan and so on. But overall, like our real estate industry would be similar to, say, San Francisco, New York, or whatever, right? So just to put things in perspective for you and everybody else as well, is when the trajectory is on the upside, right, and or the downside, whatever, at the end of the day, the person who's specializing, right, in that particular field will end up becoming a consultant rather than a salesperson, right? And now let's talk about like the other side of the equation here, right? So when you look at it in our business, what are we doing? What are some things that we are playing around with and all that stuff? So when it comes to leads right now, there are many ways, right? So let's talk about that, the second part of the equation, right? So you were talking about list building, right? That's your goal. That's a smart thing. It's a good thing that you're talking about. So leads, right? So let's talk about leads, okay? And I want to give you a vision of things that probably you don't think about. A lot of people don't think about this. Again, this is a thing people make a mistake of. And that is, it's not the size of the list that matters. It's the engagement within the list, right? You probably know this, but it needs to be drilled home, okay? So what that means, I want to be sure that you understand this, is a lead. Let's say somebody gives you their email address, right? So let's say we got their email address, and then say that email address, let's say we spend some money or we did social media marketing, whatever, we can discuss the strategies, but let's say we have 100 people sign up, okay? Well, let's even say 1,000. Let's even go a step further. It'll be easier to round it off. Okay, so 1,000 subscribers you have. That doesn't mean these 1,000 people will interact with you, right? So that means what will happen, generally speaking, in the email world, I'll give you actually the real stats, okay? The average numbers, if you will, so to speak. So what happens, I'll give you. So around from these 1,000 people, what happens is 20% open the email, okay? Right? Okay. So about, let's say now we do that, 20% open. So that means in effect, from 1,000 people, 200 people have actually opened an email you sent, okay? Now, from this, the click-through rate can be from 20 to 40%, more, sometimes it's 40, sometimes it's 20, but let's say 20%, right? I'll give you the average number or something like that. So another 20% only click your email, right, after they open it. This is the average in the industry, right? It can be up in some, down in some, but I'm just saying the average. So from those 200, only 20% click on a link which you want them to go to, which is basically to book a consult or to watch that home you have for sale or whatever it is. So that means from this, that's about 40 people, right? So we started at 1,000 and we ended at, really speaking, right, at the end of the day, 40 people who are actually engaged, okay? So the mistake everybody makes is they're always on this number they're fixated upon, right? They're always like 1,000 people. I want to raise it from 1,000 to 1,500. I want to raise it from this to this, right? But if on the other hand, if you could raise this number here, right, from 40 to 80, you've immediately doubled your sales. But if you double this is going to be more expensive, right? To get 1,000 more visitors, it may not be that easy to get 1,000 more, but to get these 40 to become 80 is much more easier. So this is what I focus on when we're talking about lead generation and stuff. So how do we do it, right? It's easy to talk, but like, how do we go about increasing that number of engaged people, okay? So the concept that is becoming very popular these days, Andy, and something that you need to keep in mind is something called omnipresence, okay? So omnipresence is basically, I'll write presence, right? So omnipresence basically is you're everywhere, Andy, all right? So that means when that person subscribes to your list, they're seeing an ad on Google Display Network, okay? We like to call it GDN. Google Display Network would be, say, for example, I came to your website, and then there's that Google Pixel is on my page. And then what happens is you spend like $5 a day. You don't have to spend much because you're reaching a very targeted people. You're only Ontario, so you're only reaching Ontario, right? So, and maybe 1,000 people visit your website. So for like something like small, like $5 a day, right? That person, just for $5, will keep seeing your ad everywhere they go. So tomorrow they go to, I'll give you Canadian newspaper or channels, whatever, National Post, Globe and Mail, and all these other platforms, they're going to see your ad. And that gives you credibility. That's like almost getting billboard advertising for free, right? And the second thing you would do is you already do it, I'm sure, but a lot of people don't do it. But say, for example, you would want to get their phone number, right? For both text messaging.
Yeah.
Right. Phone number for both text messaging and calling, okay? Both for text and call. You got to do both, okay? Yeah. Not just call, text/call. And on top of that, another one you could do is you could get them onto some type of group, okay? This could be a Facebook group. This could be, say, a Facebook chat group. You know, we have like a Skype group. You have different ways, but think about where your target audience would be. So, for example, if I'm reaching people in Asia, right? Asia, South America, Africa and stuff, they use WhatsApp, right? Yep. It's very, very popular down there, right? So WhatsApp. So I would create a WhatsApp group if I wanted to do this, right? And I'll explain to you in just a second. But you could probably do a Skype group. You could probably do, say, for example, a Facebook. Like within Facebook itself, there's like a group you can create, which is like a chat group, right? You can add people in, whatever it might be. So the idea is, what happens here is, imagine this, right? Tomorrow, I want to connect with this person, right? And there are other ways we'll get to slowly, but tomorrow I want to connect with this person. I send them a text, it pings their phone, right? Immediately they're on their phone. Like I have my phone here, so immediately it pings their phone, right? And if you do WhatsApp, for example, it will immediately send like an app notification, right? If they're browsing some website, they see your face there on some of these other platforms and stuff like that. So then what happens is, now when people recognize you, apparently they've done research on it. It's very fascinating. So what they found out is, why is Kim Kardashian and Khloe Kardashian, some of these people, the richest people in the world, when in reality they're not athletes or in a way, like they're not people aspire to be, so to speak, right? It's not like Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, or whoever it might be. So why is that the case? So they found out that when they did research, that when people see somebody's face again and again and again, it's more like they think of that person as an extended family member, right? Like a cousin or like an uncle or whatever it might be. So basically, they think of these people as people that care about them, have their best interest at heart. So for just $5 a day, instead of you spending $500 or $1,000 on a billboard, you could get that impact to these people, right? It'll give that same, if you will, impact as that. So now what happens is, next time when you send an email out, right? You send the same email. I guarantee you send the same 1,000 people, right? Your open rate is no longer going to be 20. It's going to be something like 35 or something like that, right? and your click-through rate is no longer going to be 20%. It's going to be more like 30, 35, 40%. So now these 40 people, now it becomes 100 or 80, 90. All right. And instead of you spending more money on the top line to get these 1,000 leads, you just spend this $5 here, or get that phone number, get them into another place that they keep seeing you, keep on hearing about you. That is the game these days. Okay. So this is how I want you to look at things. Now, of course, Yash and our team can help you with this. Like if you need help with setting up how to do the Google Display Network, we have training on it, but also we can guide you through it. Not a big deal. We do it for free. So no problems there. We want you to get success, obviously. But the idea is that you got to internalize this. Okay. So because at a certain stage when you're going in, it's no longer about tactics. It's about a strategy, right? The overall strategy. So like even 5 years from now, you should not be coming in and telling me, Paul, what is the latest secret to generating more leads, right? It should be like, well, how do I engage more leads? If you ask me that question, then you're going to always win. You're going to win the game even 25 years from now. It doesn't really matter. So this is the name of the game. It's engagement these days. Okay. People have so many options. People see billboards, and there's banner blindness now too. So too many things happening. Like, is that clear? Like, you have any questions on this?
100%.
Okay. Cool.
How do you feel about the been researching that, and I've gone to a YouTube strategy where I see that YouTube being part of Google, they're putting videos like all over everywhere I go online. I've been following this one guy in particular that I've kind of got a deal struck with now that I'm going to implement in the new year. But man, he's like everywhere I go because he's focused on me as a potential client. It's like everywhere I go, I'm seeing him. So so
the question is YouTube ads, you're saying, or YouTube content?
Well, I have a kind of a strategy for both. I have a content ploy that I'm going to use, but just the ads themselves, like he's so focused on me right now because I'm a potential client and I haven't bought in yet. So he just keeps, I've gone through his classes and stuff. And so he knows I'm right on the verge of buying into his company and his advertising campaigns. So he's just bombarding me. He's like, every time I open something up, he's right there going, hey, like you come back to the masterclass, and it's just so hyper targeted. It's amazing.
Yeah. So this is exactly the same strategy I was telling you about here. This is the Google Display Network. In effect, what he's doing is something called retargeting, right? So retargeting is just to simply simplify this. And this is becoming even more important right now, Andy. Okay. So retargeting simply is where, as I said, somebody lands on your website, you have that code, right? That Facebook code or Google code. Since Google owns YouTube, it would be the same thing. There's no difference. So there's no exclusive code for YouTube or anything. So then what happens is, in effect, Google knows that this person already visited your website. So therefore, they're more likely to be the type of buyer who would buy from you, right? So then what happens is, let's say we're talking about $5 here, right? So the guy you're talking about, he probably put a budget of something like $100, okay? On his retargeting a day. So what happens in the case of ads is, if it cannot do it in terms of breadth, so meaning like it cannot reach, say, 10,000 people, it increases the frequency. Okay, does that make sense? Right. So basically what I mean is, if $5 a day, I'm able to reach 1,000 people a day, right? So there's simple math here. So what it does is, if I raise this by 20 times, which is 100, right? So 20x. So like basically I increased it by 20x, right? My ad spend. But if I'm still getting the same 1,000 people here, these 1,000 people will see 20 times, right? The frequency increase. That's why you're seeing this guy everywhere, right? So he has a smaller subset of people he's reaching, and he has a little bit higher budget for those people. So it keeps hitting, right? So this also works. This is the same concept I was telling you, Omnipresence, where you keep seeing them again and again. And it's actually surprisingly cheap. A lot of people don't realize this. Like, we come from this way of thinking, right, where, it cost me $5 a click or something. But retargeting wise, doesn't cost anywhere like that. It's very cheap compared to other things. Okay.
Much cheaper than Facebook, just to say that, like way cheaper, and way more hyper focused.
And it's also, it's like this, right? It also is based on the platform. So another thing when talking about ads, right? What we've noticed with experience is, and we made mistakes throughout the way, because last year, just to give you an idea, Andy, we spent $2 million on advertising alone. Okay. So we have some insights. So one thing that we realized is, it is based on the platform. Okay. So for example, on YouTube, what are you trying to achieve if you're running a video ad on YouTube? So we got to look at it in the perspective of the buyer, right? So I look at YouTube more like a Super Bowl ad, right? Like, what is the goal of a Super Bowl ad? It is, okay, the guy doesn't should not go to the washroom break, but watch my ad. It should be so interesting. It should be quick, interesting. So the idea is the same thing. So in YouTube, what happens is the guy is watching some video on something or girl, and then now immediately they see an ad in the middle of that video, and they're like, oh man, why am I like watching this? I want to skip this as quickly as possible. So the first 5 to 10 seconds, you got to be very clear in what it is that you're offering and all that. And basically the idea with YouTube is it's something to grab somebody's attention quickly and get them to get as much information as possible to go to the next stage, right? But on the other hand, Facebook is quite different. Say, for example, Facebook's goal is to do something called scroll stopping, right? So say in Facebook, I'm scrolling down. Instagram, I'm scrolling down, and I need to stop. So you'll see in Facebook, things will be like you will see it's very much a lot more colorful. Maybe there's a lot of animation. There's like a pattern interrupt kind of thing, meaning it doesn't make any sense. Like when you see it, you're like, something is odd with this particular image or something, and some things like that, right? And that is the goal of it. So if I do the same YouTube thing in Facebook, it would be considered boring, right? By the Facebook audience, because they're like, oh, this is going on and on. I just don't have the time. I'm going to move on to some other thing. So just keep that in mind. I mean, and again, of course, we can help you out with that. If you have any help, you can ping us. We're in connection with us, where you're in our Skype group, our mentorship group, and all that stuff. So you can ping Yash or me or whatever, and we can guide you through this process. But it is a question of decision, right? So you got to make the decision. This is how I want to go, okay? And this is how I want to grow my business. And this is where I want to invest my time and resources, right? And if you say, okay, look, I'm just going to do with YouTube, perfectly fine. There's enough people there that you can do. Just with Google Display Network, perfectly fine as well. Or just with social media, free traffic through social media like Instagram or whatever, totally fine. Like right now, there's Instagram stories, and then there is YouTube Reels, for example. They're going really viral, right? Like you could post a video on YouTube Reel, 15-second video, and just like what is on TikTok and this kind of stuff, and it could go viral. Like you could be getting 20,000 visitors from just Ontario itself, like you're the province you're in, or just in that region alone, you'll be getting 20,000 visitors, which is crazy. So you got to decide where you want to focus your time on, okay? You cannot be everywhere. You cannot be in 5-6 different places. It's very difficult to manage, especially in the early stages. But if you say, look, Paul, I want to master and specialize in just YouTube because I see potential in the type of stuff I'm reaching, the kind of customers I'm trying to reach, or just Facebook, or just Google Display Network, or whatever it is. And if you make that decision, I think that'll simplify things for you. Okay, first of all. Okay.
Right. Fantastic. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So now let's go to the next stage here, okay, which is something I kind of wanted to discuss here, is something called customer ascension, okay? For service-based businesses like yours and stuff like that, one of the key mistakes everyone makes is they don't have a system to ascend the clients that you get, right? So what we like to call it is called customer ascension. So this would be, in a simpler term, in the real estate space, it could be, would that person be interested in a second home, right? Like a investment property or something, right? Having a system in your pipeline where, say, for example, you have the email list that you built, right? You could set it up where, for example, after 3 months, right, 90 days, you put up a sequence which says, hey, interested in buying a second home, right? And this data you already have as a realtor, right? I mean, you know what the average house is selling for. And that's right now, I think it's about a month and a half or 2 months in Ontario. It's crazy, but let's just say 2 months. But so if that is the case, you put this autoresponder sequence 90 days after, more likely that person ended up buying if they were really serious, right? So even if they didn't buy from you that first time, they're very likely to buy that investment property or that pre-construction condominium or something else, right? You set that up as an automated sequence. So we do 90 days later, okay? You do autoresponder sequence. So in the email list that you're building, it automatically can set it. Are you familiar with how to set this? I'm hoping.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good, excellent. All right, so you do it as a 90-day sequence. So after 90 days, send this bunch of emails and talk about the second home or whatever. Now the second thing is also about refinance. You're in the mortgage space, right? Refinance. This would be a huge thing for you. Even if they bought from you just about 6 months ago, whatever, what if the properties went up by 15%, 10%? They want to refinance, right? So these are the kind of strategies I want you to keep in mind before you even start your advertising campaigns. Because what happens, right? These days, what's happening in the advertising space, any space, I mean, even just in the online space, whether you're going to put time or money at it, let's assume due to the time you put in, forget about even money. There's no such thing as free traffic per se, because you're putting time into getting that free traffic. So let's put a value to every visitor that you get. So let's say we put a $2 value, right, for every visitor that we get onto our website, right? And that is the going rate right now, by the way, just so you know. So let's say we put $2 value at that person. So the guy or gal who spends $4 will get the best reach, correct? Do you agree with me on this? That they will get more placements, they will get, Google will go crazy. Whoa, $2 and this guy or gal is spending $4? Wow. Okay, I'm going to give him all the best reach, best platforms. So now, if you plan this ascension ahead of time, and you at least think about it, right? I mean, even if you don't have a product or service or something else that you're giving, if you have this ascension planned out, you can happily spend this $4 any day of the week, while everybody else in the market is spending $2. And things will happen where I've noticed, and what is happening right now, Facebook had this iOS update recently. And so what's happening is their tracking is completely messed up, right? So with iOS, right? So that impacts Canada, US a lot, because a lot of people in Canada and US use iPhones over Android phones per se. So what's happening is you will see in certain cases where you start off, let's say, spending $2, you will not get any traffic because there's not much tracking happening. And then a lot of people give up. They're like, oh, I spent $100, right? I got, I don't know, 50 visitors or whatever. And then now I didn't make anything. Those guys and gals were not that targeted. I give up, right? And they quit. What's happening is the algorithm is actually benefiting people who stick around longer, right? It's like this. If I need to know the rules of the game, right? To play the game, I need to know the rules of the game. The rules of the game is, in Facebook's eyes, it's like this. If some person comes in and spends something like $100,000 in a day, right? Brand new account. That looks very suspicious to them, right? You understand? You're like, who is this person? Did they do something shady? Are they running some scam or something? And it appears to the algorithm as shady, and they'll block the account right away, right? They'll not even care even if you have the best product in the world. On the other hand, what they are thinking is something called age of the account. So let's say even if you started off with $5 a day, right? And then you slowly increased it after 1 month to $25 a day. After 1 month, I'm saying after 4 months, you increase it to say $70 a day or whatever. You slowly grow. They appreciate that. And then they'll give you the best buyers as well, because they will have enough data to now keep serving you the better reach and better customers. So what we are noticing right now in our industry and across 2 or 3 verticals that I'm in is when we start off with this $4 as an example, right? In reality, you might end up spending something like $1.50 after the first 1 month. You're gonna be spending less than the average. Because what happens is most other people quit, right? They stop running ads. They'll say, oh, I don't run it on weekends or Sunday and stuff like that. So there are certain days that businesses don't run ads. So they have this excess inventory. There are days where, for example, at midnight, right, like from 1 a.m. in the morning to 6 a.m. in the morning, there's these dead space, as we like to call it, same like in late night television, right? Where these that if you keep running it, even though other people are shutting it down, you can get this down to $1.50. Okay. So if you have this customer ascension plan where you're thinking, okay, even if I lose some money in the main area where, say, for example, I lease a apartment for them, I'm not going to sell something, I'm going to get a $2,000 commission, $1,500, right? Half of the first month's rent or whatever I get. Even if it's just looking at it in the lower level that way, you should look at that as the customer acquisition cost, and then look at this Ascension plans here, because that's how you build $1 million business these days, right? There's no other real way where if I just sell one product and just one type of service and then expect to build a business that will keep working where I'm not doing the work either, it wouldn't work. Say, for example, here, and you like think about it this way, right? Like tomorrow you want to take it easy, like you want to go vacation in Mexico. If you were to do it, this system, this refinance system, you could at least pass it on to another mortgage broker and get a commission there, right? Or a referral fee. You could, right, even in the second home scenario, you can pass it on to somebody else and get a referral fee. So that is the advantage here, because you have a consistent flow you're getting consistently. You're not stopping, right? And it's not like you're not saying, oh, just on Sundays I'm not going to advertise. Oh, I'm not going to advertise on 1 a.m. at midnight or 5 a.m. or something. You're continuously, providing that momentum as well. Okay, so that's something I want you to keep in mind as well. So now let's talk about this though, the main thing. How much budget do you want to allocate for advertising or something like that? What are you comfortable with? Because based on that, I'll give you some ideas on what would work best for you right now as we speak.
Well, I mean, that's so hard to answer, Paul, because, with Facebook, if you spend hundreds or $1,000 a week, most of the leads would be, like, I hate to keep slamming Facebook, but I'm so focused now on going to Google, YouTube route that I'm just like fed up with Facebook. And basically, so my mortgage business was called beatthebanks.com. That's my website. And Facebook literally shut me down because I'm not allowed to say I'm beating somebody, that I can beat the banks. And so for 15 years, my wife and I are partners in that. And all of our marketing was the pair of us with the boxing gloves on, and we're known as the bank fighters. So we beat the banks, and that was our shtick for 15 years plus. And Facebook basically shut us down, said we can't say that anymore.
Did you try to get it reinstated? Because there is a process for that.
We did try, but it wasn't very successful, and we found that because they're so automated, there wasn't really anybody to talk to. And
okay. So connect with Yash after this call. Okay, I'll help you out with this. All right.
Okay, that's fantastic. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's ways to do this. So the idea is that they have these terms and services, right? Policies. So you gotta say something like, okay, look, I'm sorry if we violated this particular term in your terms and services. We'll make sure we'll do that. So there's a process for it. I mean, you're not doing anything illegal. You're not doing under the radar. It's just a question of, you understand, right? You're trying to get in touch with a real person rather than an automated bot, right? How do you get in touch with a real person? We'll try to help you out with, okay? After that, again, it depends on other factors, but we've been able to successfully do this because at the end of the day, we have a business where we legitimately run ads. We have legitimate product, just like you're actually doing it. So I think it can be done. Okay, I'll try to see if we can help you with that after this call. At least we'll give you some advice.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, now,
yeah. So the other thing is that so I really started to focus on the Google YouTube strategy because they don't shut you down the same way. Like they don't, it's not as, let's call it hardcore as Facebook. And Facebook is really getting, hammered from every angle. And now the new iOS that you were talking about with the iPhones, so they're not being able to retarget as well. And so there's a lot of companies, one of, us included, that just are kind of shying away from Facebook. And I see YouTube as like the Wild West. Really, it's they let you say not whatever you want, but they'll let you, like, there's no issue with us being the bank fighters on YouTube, and we can talk about, I can specifically talk about. So in Canada, so one of my campaigns was red bank, green bank, blue bank. Then everybody in Canada, in Ontario, knows what red bank, blue bank, and green bank mean. Like, they're the biggest, right? And so we ran campaigns that we said, why would you ever deal with blue bank? We can beat their rate, and if you break your mortgage, we can beat their penalties. And not only that, I pay my mortgage by taking care of you as my client. where the employee at the bank is only focused on how to get to the next level in the bank. And so if you talk to that same person during the life of that 5-year mortgage, obviously they're not any good, because if they were, they would have been promoted up the ladder, and there would be somebody else in that position. So, there's different ways to target on that side. But I also found that, and that's why this is how I became a realtor. I was using YouTube like 10 years ago, when YouTube wasn't like the same as YouTube is now by any means. But I put some ads on there that I was trying to get mortgages, because I've been a mortgage broker for almost 20 years and a realtor for about 5 now. And I was trying to sell properties. And I got targeted by like 99% of the realtors loved it, that, I was sending them pre-approved clients for their sale. And it only took 3 guys, 3 guys in Ontario. And, I got kiboshed. You can't do that. You can't use our pictures. You can't do anything with our listing. And I got shut down. So I figured, well, the best way to avoid that happening again is get my real estate license. And now I'm allowed to promote their properties, right? So I have to ask for permission and all that, get all the, cross my T's and dot my I's. But so now there's the whole new strategy where I'm going to come out on YouTube, and it's not as dominated as people think. Like, there's not that many people that are focused on it. So in answer to your question, what my budget is going to be, I'm not really sure. I'm going to try, $1,000 or a couple $1,000s a month, and just see how hyper targeted I can get, because I have exactly what you were saying is, there's a whole lot of difference between somebody who looks at a house and says, oh, that's beautiful, I want to find out more about that house. But really, they'll look at 1,000 houses, and they should, before they buy one. I mean, why would they look at one and just buy it? Most people will look at, maybe not thousands, but 100 at least before they, zone right in and buy that one. But my focus is more on if you like this house and you're interested in it, first of all, you need to get pre-approved for a mortgage. Then we'll go and look at the house and see if you really like it, then we can make an offer, and we can do an all cash offer because you're pre-approved and ready to go. So that's where my focus is. And there's really, I see an opportunity there on YouTube for that, as opposed to Facebook. So I think I'm really going the Google route now.
Right. Yeah. So what I would suggest, just to put things in perspective here, I wouldn't because you see, it's like this, right, Andy? So this is a big thing that I've learned over the years as well. You have experience running ads on Facebook. You've actually done the math. You know how to make the numbers work. You know what kind of ads people like on Facebook. So in that kind of a scenario, you should not be quitting a platform just because some guru said, oh, YouTube is the new thing. I'm not denying, well, you're right? I mean, you're right. YouTube is the Wild West right now. It has a lot of opportunity, but there's also the question of the core competency thing. I said, be in both places. Okay. Do not try to be in a situation where Facebook is completely out of question. I would put that into your game plan to see how you can get back and do other things. 100%, because you're better than the average Facebook advertiser, right? Every time you are better than the average person, you should see how you can be part of it. Okay. Right. So the reason, so we'll try to see how we can help you with that. Now, the second point of the equation here that I want to also say is, you already know the core competency, how you want to, basically get your clients the house that they are interested in without having to put, a financing condition, because they're pre-approved, right? Which is a big deal in a hot real estate market right now. We're pre-qualifying. So that's perfect. That's 100%. I agree with you. That's excellent. And that's the way to go as well. You're right. 100%. So in terms of the YouTube and Facebook debate, do both. I mean, there's no one is best and not, right? And also with YouTube, what we've noticed, Andy, is it takes a long time for the YouTube pixel to mature. Okay. Could take a couple of months, sometimes 3 months even. We've run ads where it's making a loss. Like, how long? But then somebody advises, just don't turn it off. Just keep running. And after 3 months, we got the cost per acquisition for the customer drop by half after 3 months. So that sometimes is painful, right? It's not fun to keep seeing an ad that's losing money. So that's something to keep in mind as well, for sure. So be in both places. I would advise 100% be in both places. We do that too. And try your best to see how you can get back on Facebook. Don't give up. You see, the thing is, Andy, a lot of people who get banned on Facebook are very black hat in nature, right? So meaning they've done some shady stuff, or there's ways I could go into detail, but there's tons of ways. You've done a legitimate business. You had a legitimate thing. Sometimes these things happen where somebody reported the ad, or some small thing happened that caused it's something to trigger with the algorithm, right? With the automated bot. So that doesn't mean that the company on its own is against you. It's just more like something went wrong. You got to clarify and you get that resolved. Okay. So we'll try to see that. So I wouldn't, because it's like somebody told you, Andy, this 5 years experience that you did, you succeeded in it. Now try something brand new. Like, it's like you have this goal that you've dug here, you've mined the goal, and now you're like, I'm going to find a new gold mine. You know what I mean? It's like not the right approach in this kind of scenario. So do both for sure. Okay. Now, in terms of the Google, let's go to that part right now, and then if you have any questions thereafter, we'll kind of do. And maybe if anybody is watching this has questions too, you can let us know. So let me share my screen here real quick. So have you started, like give me an idea, how far along are you with maybe doing some marketing on YouTube, like video marketing or something like that? What are you basically, how far along have you gone?
Well, I'm still in the consultation kind of spin with this company that I'm pretty sure I'm going to go with them, because he's just impressed me so much with how he can follow me around. It's like, wow, it's unbelievable. Like everywhere I go, he pops up with his ad, right? And I think that if I can achieve anywhere, like, then again, I mean, he's probably spending hundreds of thousands per month on his ads. Like, I'm not like, obviously I can't do anything like he's doing, but even just if I could show up like a couple times a day where it's more focused, and so I think there's a real big opportunity there. I just see that there's not a lot of people in my business that are using it. So whereas the other social media, everybody's there. Like, if you're not on there, then like you're missing the mark completely. And so all of my competition is focused highly on the social media side. So I think there's an opportunity. But like you said, I'm not going to just jump ship and forget about social media, because that's basically suicide in my industry. That's what it's all about. I mean, we get more because we've been in business in the mortgage side for so many years. I don't really even have to advertise, so to speak. Like, we've done so many thousands of deals now that most of our business, if like 75%, let's say, is just repeat business and referral business from people that we've already dealt with, right? But that doesn't mean that, like you say, you sit back and just hope the phone's going to ring. You got to keep trying to get new business and, push forward. And so there's the one side where that is so competitive and so heavily fought after on the real estate side, that people just scroll right past it. If they see a house on Facebook, like, I don't know anybody that would stop and look at that house now, like one in a million maybe. But on YouTube, there's a chance where, people you can watch YouTube on your TV then. And, I've got grandchildren, and I'm old enough now that when they come over, they just turn on YouTube. They don't even watch TV anymore. They're just on YouTube. And I'm going, what the heck? I've never seen this before. And there they are. There's ads popping up. And I'm going, well, and at this point, we just this month paid to have the ads removed, because I didn't even know that was a thing, right? I'm so I was so, call it, backwards to YouTube. But now I see like all the younger generation that's where they're at. Like, they don't even have TV anymore. I'm still spending like almost a couple $100 a month on my my TV package. They think I'm crazy.
I don't have a TV package too.
We just went to so we had like, I don't know what it was, like 500 channels or whatever. We didn't watch any of it. So we just went to, I went from 180 something a month for my TV package to $70. We canceled everything except for 10 channels. And now we got, smart TVs and YouTube and all the apps. And so that's kind of a life changer right there. And I had no idea that, that's what these young people were doing. So I think that, and with the whole metaverse and all that new stuff coming, I think that's, I think what you can do on YouTube is going to be like crazy with what's coming.
Yeah. So just one advice I would do. Okay. So if I'm advising a friend, right, or whatever it is. So before you get into like an agency to run your ads or that kind of thing, like what you're thinking, maybe you get on a call with Yash or one of our team members and probably will guide you to it. But anyway, the key thing that I want you to focus on is there are two aspects to running an ad, right? So one is the creatives, right? So meaning creative would be basically where the content, right, that you're running. And like this would be the video that you're creating. This would be the image ad or that banner on that YouTube video. This could be whatever, right? The campaign, the advertising creative. Then the other aspect of it is the actual ad management. Okay. So this is the ad management. This would be basically where the budgets you're checking. This would be basically like you're, tracking it on a day-to-day basis, optimizing it, blah, blah, blah. Right. So this is the optimization part, right? So now what you have to keep in mind, okay, and this is something a lot of people don't realize and they make a mistake on, is in the early days, that's what I did, is a lot of the agencies don't do this. Because why? They're dealing with 20, 30 other people and they don't have like the knowledge of the industry like you do. So they'll be like, okay, Andy, go ahead, you shoot the ad, right? You go do all the creative aspects. You go give me that video. And then you give me who your target audience is, and then we will run the ad to that target audience, right? So the problem is, and I'll guarantee you this, these days, this right here is more like what 80% of the time is what's going to get you the money, right? So it's like this, right? If you give me like a bad video, I'm not going to, even my greatest of great ad campaign or optimization I do, it's not going to make money, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if people are not engaged by it. So even the world's best person who knows all the secrets behind the scenes of how YouTube works, they cannot really turn around a bad ad creative into a good ad creative. It's impossible. So, and then the other problem also becomes where if you, it's like this, right? So these guys, they want to actually show all great numbers, right? So they don't want to get the pressure of like, okay, ROI is bad, therefore blah, 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 right? And tracking is very difficult these days as well, because of the iOS update and other facts like that. So attribution, as we like to call it, which is basically where, let's say a lead, right, ended up making the purchase, right, to actually figure out at what point in time they made that purchase and whether they made that purchase through that ad or because you ran an email marketing campaign or because they already knew you, Andy. Like say sometimes what happens is somebody already knows you, that person already is part of that 75% who keep purchasing from you again. That person saw the ad and they're like, oh, Andy, I remember Andy, let me call him. And they will attribute that sale also to the work that they're doing here. Okay, so what I'm trying to explain to you is if they're saying that you need to do the creative, then 80% of the work is what you're doing. Keep that in mind. Just something that I want you to do. And the ad thing that we're talking about, the ad management aspect of it is pretty automated these days. There's something called campaign budget optimization. You probably already know it. But anyway, the idea is that once you give the data and you say, look, you find the audience now, right? YouTube, Google, Facebook, they find you the audience. It's not like you have to go and search like only people looking at buying a house in Toronto, Canada. It doesn't work. They will find you the audience based on your budget and stuff, right? So what I would suggest, okay, and there's something maybe Yash or somebody can do, is you need to figure out who will do this for you first, creatives. Okay, before you get into the ad management, because once you sign the contract with these guys, they will be in a situation where they'll be like, okay, give me the creatives. We cannot begin before you give me the videos, right? And then it takes time, right? It takes some creativity to think about all this stuff. And then once you run one or two of them, then it's a much more difficult way for you to actually, if you will, understand how much of it is actually attributed because of the ads that these folks are managing for you and optimizing it. And in a given day, I would say they're spending more like 30 minutes of their time actually to manage your thing, not like 8 hours. Okay.
Right.
So the thing that we suggest people, and what I recommend, even customers, even most of our clients, like some of the people I work with as well, even we ourselves, our business, we do a lot of consulting work for other businesses just like yours. What we do now, I don't do as much actually, because I'm mostly involved in equity partnerships these days. So because time, there's some limited amount of time that I have. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is that you got to realize, do you want somebody who has only 30 minutes every day to sit and do it? Or do you want to learn it, where you spend that week or something of your time and you want to learn it? Because here's the secret, right? If you can figure out somebody who can do the creative, you won the game. Okay. There's not much there to it. So your better question should be, who can I find? Do I find somebody from Philippines or Fiverr, Upwork, or whatever, who's good with these creatives, who can create? Those guys spend any amount of money, because I would throw any amount of money for somebody who's creative in nature, but I'd be very careful how much I'm spending here, because at the end of the day, these folks cannot magically convert this into a sale, right? So just something. Does that make sense? Hope that is helping you out a little bit.
100% that makes sense. That's exactly why I haven't jumped in yet and signed up. And the pressure's on. They want me to sign up, but that's exactly the layout. Is they're going to coach me and teach me how to run the ads and build them, but I have to provide the creative, and you've laid it out exactly the scenario I'm in.
Exactly. Perfect.
And it's not cheap. What they're talking about is tens of thousands of dollars to get this going. And I'm
I wouldn't recommend that much, Andy. No, I wouldn't recommend.
That's what I'm saying is like, I'm not there. So
no.
I have another guy that I've been working with on the Google platform, and so that I'm basically kind of starting from scratch. So I have to rebuild my whole Google My Business and get that functioning properly. And then, I've been in touch with Google themselves. And so I've got a guy from Google that is talking to me about that and how to do my ads. And the other side of it, the admin side of it, I've kind of been, I want to go with this company because I'm so impressed, but nobody knows that business better than Google. And so, they've been reaching out to me, and I've been talking to them about how to set things up. And at this point, they're saying that they can coach me and help me every step of the way with that. So I'm kind of thinking that rather than put out the big bucks and go this way, I'm going to see how far I can get on my own with Google. And then, of course, you're bang on with it's the creative. If you don't have the right ad, then you're just going to get skipped and clicked off. But I've learned one thing about YouTube, though. Don't be afraid of the skip, right? Because if they skip your ad, you don't pay.
Yep.
So, you've got limited seconds. It's actually something else I learned is it's not just you can skip the ad in 5 seconds, but you don't pay for 30. So you can, you got to get your 5 seconds in there and see if you can grab their attention to keep them there for 29, but you don't pay for that ad unless they watch more than 30 seconds. I thought that was fascinating because I could say a lot in 30 seconds. And I didn't realize that. I thought that after 5 seconds, if they watch after 5 seconds, you're paying, but that's not the way it works.
So there's two ways of looking at this particular topic, right? So yeah, one thing is you're saving money when they skip, but also you got to look at it in the perspective of Google. If everybody watches your ad skips, they're not making money either, right? So in a way, you got to look at it like, how can I make that person not skip too in certain aspects of it?
Exactly. And that's what the Google guy was talking to me about is don't be afraid of the skip, but really that's not what you want. You want the ad to work. So you have to be enticing. You have to be able to, you want to grab their attention within that first 5 seconds so that they'll stay and watch your ad. And if you do it right, then you can have a 1 minute ad and you're getting hundreds or thousands of people to watch that. You're bound to get a few clients out of it. And in my business, I'm not selling pencils. I can, if I get a client out of it, I can do quite well. So, whereas, other companies that are selling pencils, I mean, they got to sell 1 million pencils to make any money, where I only have to get, well, if I could get hundreds or thousands of clients a year from it, it would be amazing. I'd be looking at buying industrial buildings like Paul.
Yeah. So the thing here, Andy, is you're 100% right, and the idea is that what I'm trying to explain to you ultimately is, I would say this particular task, I'll probably help you out with it. Somebody from my team, you can probably get in touch with you, or anybody. I mean, there's a lot of people who can do this stuff here. This one, where I would focus your time in this, is this, Andy, okay? Google will not help you with this.
No,
you got to have it. That's
exactly
the thing, right? With our apps and stuff, we discussed this a little bit, but also with the Asha's training in our, in our Skype group as well. For those who haven't, probably I'll give a link or something. We have a free mentorship group where we talk about things like what are good ways to do creatives and all that stuff. The point is that if you can master this is another thing I teach people as well, Andy, right? In my perspective as well, is if I'm trying to provide this as a service, as an agency or consultant, if I provide an all-inclusive service similar to what you're doing with a house, right? Like where you're offering the actual mortgage thing so that somebody can go and see, I have non-conditional offer, I can close quick because the bank has already given me pre-approval. Same concept, right? Where I'm going to give you an all-inclusive. I'm going to do the creatives and the ad management. You can charge people any amount of money and they'll pay for it because they're solving the bigger problem here, right? So you got to make that decision whether you want to do this, or you want to actually go a step further and do something else cooler. So hope that is making sense. So if you were to spend your time, you would want to either do this yourself, meaning you learn this, or you hire a person and pay them good money to be able to create this stuff for you. And that's where I would put my budget. If I were you, I would invest my budget on this more than the other stuff there. Because as I said, very few people master this creative aspect, but there are tons of people who are good at this stuff. Tons.
Right.
Like you could go to Fiverr now and they're like people saying, pay me $50 a month and I'll manage it. Because at the end of the day, the thing is, it's pretty automated. Like if an ad is good and the audience is set, there's not that much work to optimize what is already working. You just raise the budget and all that. The creative though, and making sure that it's matching the audience that you're reaching, is super difficult, because that requires a level of understanding of the audience. Like, how you were saying, like your wife and you had that beat the bank, that whole hook, right? Like, which is when somebody sees it, they're like, oh, this guy and gal has my best interest at heart, right? They're going to fight on my behalf. That is a hook. That's a brilliant hook that you came about, right? It's not like some guy or somebody taught you like, oh, I'm going to do this for you. You need to do these things, right? So you're in the right path. Okay. So what I'm saying is the skills that you have and stuff, don't second guess yourself. I mean, you just need a little bit of direction, and obviously we'll provide you with that. That's not a problem, but you're in the right path. You know what you're doing, and the level that you're in, Andy, you should be making at least $300,000 or more per year with this stuff profit. Okay. I would, the way I like to look at it in our industry, and I'll tell you, and I actually, sometimes I get disappointed if this doesn't happen, but hey, look, the way I see it is, if it's you, right? If it's just you as an individual person, you should be doing 100 grand on the internet, no problems, with the skills that you have and all that. If you're bringing your wife in, it should be about 180, 200, no problems. But you want to get to the million, you got to hire some people. Okay. It's impossible. There's no way somebody can come in and say, look, I can do $1 million business on my own. It's not possible. But if you're doing the 6 figures, shouldn't be that difficult. The reason is skills, right? I mean, you have the experience, you've already done it before, you've successfully done it. So it's just a question of consistently doing it, right? And making sure that you have a level of consistency. And what you said about that growth is 100% correct. Like, for example, last year we did 10 million. This year my goal from the very beginning is to do 12 or 13 million. Like if I just want to do 10 million like last year, I'll make 7 or something. The reason is just, you know what I mean, right? Like you got to keep looking at new ways to grow, because there's so much competition. People are looking at your market share. There's other factors happening. So it's like, what I'm always looking at it is, if I'm the number one in the industry that I'm in, then automatically the money comes in, right? I don't have to worry about the money. And the second thing I'm also looking at it is also in a perspective of this, which is, if you look at it in a bigger picture, what happens is, like you, Andy, right now. So that's what I was telling you with the Facebook thing, that you're excellent at what you're doing, and which you got success. So it's like this, right, Andy? So if you quit Facebook right now and you join YouTube, as an example, fully, then what happens is your competition, if you will, has been doing YouTube just like how you did Facebook. So your competition is much smarter than you, right? And so on the other hand, if you're in both places, you can, you have that advantage of trying both things out. But also the other benefit is, you, like, let's say you are in this level. I'll put this pen here, right? And I'm at this level, right? And next year you're at this level, I'm still at this level. You're always going to beat this guy, right? So that's why we're going to keep growing over time. You got to keep thinking new things, got to keep experimenting new things, and have fun doing it. That's the most important thing. If you're like, oh, it's difficult, it's not that fun, and all that stuff, then it's going to be a little bit tough to do it. But that's why I try to make things as fun as possible in the process as well. To try to make that learning as fun as possible. Okay, right. So. Yeah. So basically, if you will, so now the pathway for you, right? Like, I mean, if I were to say my friend, like I would want to tell you. So now the way you would do this going forward, and this first thing I would do is, again, let's try to get the Facebook account back, right? That's the first thing. I wouldn't lose out on it. That's the big money maker you should be looking for, right? So we got to look at some ways. I'll give you some advice. I think our team will give you some advice. We'll do our best. We'll see what we can do there. Now, the second thing is that once you're doing that simultaneously, you get that Google thing set up. And then now you look at how you can get the creative set up, right? That could be using some apps of ours, video creation apps or whatever. That could also be utilizing, there's so many things you can do. You can figure that out. And then the other one is the other stuff I told you, which is the customer ascension, have that funnel set up already in the email sequence and other things, so that when somebody lands on the leads, that you have a plan already 90 days from now, 180 days from now. There's a saying in our industry is it's just like chess, right? In chess, the person who thinks one move ahead of you will always win the game. Same thing in our industry, in our spaces, in the online world. The one who sends that one extra autoresponder sequence will get the most money, right? So oftentimes people get afraid of this, but it's more like if you told me, Paul, for the next 3 years, I set up an autoresponder sequence with my customers, I will be like, you're gonna make money. You're gonna make more money than somebody who did 1 year, for example, right? Yeah, absolutely. It's just the way it is, right? So that ascension thing, just think about it. It's like the final point I would make is think about more offers you can make. Okay, whether it is you're talking about vertical integration of the mortgage services, we're talking about houses or whatever. But think about what other things you can do. Maybe you can create an ebook which says what are some of the pitfalls that you need to avoid when buying your first house, right? Something like that. Like that would be an offer that you could put it on Amazon Kindle or somewhere for like free or 99 cents or whatever. So then what happens is when somebody comes in, right, immediately when they're not even interested in buying the house, maybe at that moment because they're first time buyers or whatever. But when they go in and they buy that for that Kindle where they get it for free or whatever, even if it's only 20 pages, 30 pages long, the likelihood of them buying the house from you increases substantially, right? So little things like that, more offers, simple, more. Think of like what other things can I offer? That will multiply your results. Very simple stuff. I know it sounds simplistic. It's much more harder to do this stuff, but it's more like I like to look at more like strategy rather than the tactics, because what if tomorrow YouTube dies, right? YouTube has an advertising thing. It's not so strong. Then what do we do? On the other hand, if we have a strategy in place now, it'll always work even many, many years from now, right? So that's how I like to look at it. So hope that is clear. So yeah, any questions you had because it's already past 1 hour. So I don't want people to watch it later and enjoy it, and you yourself to get some insights on it. Any other last questions you had?
No, I really appreciate your time, Paul, and I got a lot of good insights out of this. I'm 100% in agreement with you in this strategy. It's amazing when you can actually see it written down. I mean, I do the same thing, and I show my wife, and I got my little piece of paper here, and it's like, if I do this and then I do this, and she said, just go to work. And I'm all, yeah, but I got it. This is it. This is work. This is like the main thing. This is what and so I've got all these crazy lines like you drew out here for me, and but I'm in total agreement with you, and you just broke it down perfectly for me, so that and I know you're a master at it, so I really appreciate it, man. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you for getting on, Andy. So we'll do another call maybe in a month or 2 months, just check in what you're doing and all that stuff. So like more like a follow-up kind of thing, see what you're up to. And I'm sure, Andy, another thing is, like I said, like I'll be angry at you if you're not very successful, because you've done the hard work already. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people, what they do is after a year or 2 years, they quit. They're like, I'm not going to do this stuff. It's too complex. I'll just do whatever I'm comfortable doing. You've already done the work, like you and your wife. You should be patting yourself on the back. So I'll be disappointed in you if you do not go to the next level. You know what I mean? Because you've done the work already. So that's why I want to check in on you maybe a month or 2 months from now. But as I said, we'll get on a call with you and just get in touch, see how we can get your Facebook account back and other things as well, because little things like that can make a big difference, right? So we'll see what we can do. Yeah. And so for those who are watching this, if you want to get on a call like this with at least like how Andy got in, you want me to help you out in any way, because sometimes these phone calls we might need to follow up with you or whatever. I'm doing this for free, guys. I don't want to get any penny out of this, because I appreciate our customers like Andy and you folks as well. And I'm a little bit busy with my time these days with other things, other projects that I'm doing on, but I like to speak with our customers because I really do appreciate you guys coming in and joining in. And I like to know what's happening in your business. That makes me a better entrepreneur myself, right? Like with Andy, I learned so many things today as well that I'm going to think next time around that I'll be more prepared if I get on a call with people like Andy now, because I'm like, okay, now this is how I'm going to do to help folks better, right? So if you want to get on a call like this, please message us here, right? I have some other prizes and other stuff I'm coming up with in our group and all that stuff to encourage people to get on, because that's the starting point to help you out. As I said, I don't want a single penny from this. The goal is to help you as much as possible. And for people who will see inspiration in Andy and his wife, right? That's superheroes for me, because I love to see couples succeeding together. That takes a lot of commitment, and also that takes a lot of trust with each other and all that stuff. So that's an exciting thing as well. It's a motivation for a lot of people as well. So, so great, Andy. So having you here was awesome. And I look forward to seeing you on another ones. And for those, just let us know in the comments if you liked it, any questions you have, any questions you had for Andy as well. Maybe you're looking to buy a house. You're in Ontario. You want to contact Andy. You're in Canada. Hey, you can do that too. He'll help you out.
The best rates. We beat the banks.
Absolutely. Exactly. All right. So hope that helps, folks. Thank you so much. We'll look forward to seeing you on our next live training call. Have fun.
Thanks again, Paul. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.